Master English speaking by practicing proven daily routines that build confidence and clarity. This video presents 10 concise chapters: micro conversations, themed vocabulary immersion, shadowing native speakers, daily voice recording, targeted pronunciation drills, deliberate pauses, structured storytelling, rapid response prompts, gradual real-life interactions, and conversation simulation routines. Each chapter gives practical exercises, short drills, and measurable steps you can use today to speak more fluently. Value promise: follow the plan and notice clearer pronunciation, faster responses, and steady confidence within weeks. Subscribe to Audiobook every day for daily practice, compact lessons, and motivational guidance that keeps your progress consistent. Simple, realistic, and time-efficient results. Number 1. Practice micro conversations daily for fluency. Fluency begins in the smallest moments, often in places most people overlook. A brief exchange with a shopkeeper, a simple greeting to a colleague, a short introduction to someone new. These are the micro conversations that shape the foundation of confident English speaking. Many believe fluency comes from long study sessions or memorizing endless rules, yet real progress emerges through repeated exposure to everyday communication. Each short interaction acts like a drop of water carving into stone. Over time, these drops create transformation. The discipline of returning to these small exchanges again and again is what separates those who wish to speak better from those who truly do. Daily micro conversations train the mind to stay present. They strip away pressure because they are short, quick, and natural. They mimic real situations instead of artificial exercises. They force you to respond with what you know rather than what you wish you knew. This is where fluency grows, under the weight of small demands repeated consistently. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment to practice English, you create simple moments every day that feed your progress. Fluency is not about perfection, it is about steady exposure, honest practice, and being willing to speak even when your words feel imperfect. Many learners avoid speaking because they fear mistakes. They worry about grammar, pronunciation, vocabulary, and how they sound to others. Yet the truth remains: silence never builds skill. Speaking, even in small pieces, strengthens neural connections. The more frequently you trigger these pathways, the faster your brain adapts. Each micro-conversation becomes a training session for clarity, confidence, and emotional control. It teaches you to stay grounded instead of panicking. It teaches you to speak even when unsure. This is a form of discipline, meeting discomfort with calm persistence. Start by engaging in one short conversation each day. A simple greeting, a question, a quick comment. These interactions are not tests. They are exercises. They remind you that fluency is built through repetition, not rare moments of courage. A 30-second exchange may seem insignificant, but it influences your rhythm, your confidence, and your willingness to engage again. Over time, these moments accumulate. What once felt intimidating becomes routine. The fear that once held you back begins to dissolve because your mind grows comfortable with using English as a tool for communication, not a performance that must be judged. Micro-conversations also sharpen listening. Speaking is not only about expressing your thoughts, it is also about understanding others. These brief interactions expose you to natural speed, tone, and real-world vocabulary. You hear authentic phrases, accents, expressions, and the natural flow of speech. You begin to recognize patterns. You start anticipating responses. Your brain becomes more skilled at processing real English instead of textbook English. This is the type of improvement that only comes from interaction. Consistency matters more than intensity. A single large conversation once a week cannot replace 10 tiny conversations each day. Fluency thrives on frequency, not duration. Every short exchange trains your tongue to move more freely, your mind to react more quickly, and your confidence to rise gradually without force. These moments teach you to adapt. They teach you to find words when under slight pressure. They teach you to express yourself without overthinking. This is a quiet form of self-mastery, responding with calm clarity even when the conversation is brief and unexpected. A powerful benefit of micro-conversations is that they reduce the emotional weight of speaking. Long conversations can feel overwhelming, but short ones feel manageable. They allow you to experiment. You can try new vocabulary, new sentence structures, new expressions, and see how people respond. If something feels awkward or incorrect, the moment passes quickly. Nothing is lost. But every attempt adds to your experience. This process builds resilience because you learn not to fear mistakes. You begin to accept them as natural. You stop judging your accent harshly. You stop demanding perfection. You stop holding yourself back. To make micro-conversations part of your daily life, start with familiar environments. Speak to people you already know. Speak to workers in places you visit frequently. Speak to classmates or colleagues in short bursts. Greet them. Ask simple questions. Comment on something relevant. These interactions do not require long preparation. They do not demand advanced vocabulary. They simply require willingness. Over time, these familiar faces become safe practice partners. They help you grow without pressure. Next, move into slightly unfamiliar situations. Ask for directions. Comment on the weather. Ask a shopkeeper a quick question. Order something using an extra sentence. These moments push your boundaries gently. They remind you that English is not a subject you are not being graded. English is a tool for connection, and tools grow easier to use the more often you handle them. Eventually, micro-conversations begin to shape your identity. You start seeing yourself as someone capable of speaking, not someone afraid of speaking. You begin to trust your voice. You stop hesitating. This shift matters more than any grammar rule or vocabulary list. The mind drives the tongue. When your mentality changes, your fluency accelerates. You become more bold. You become more expressive. You become more at ease with uncertainty. The discipline of daily speaking becomes part of who you are. A powerful technique is to create simple conversation starters you can use anywhere. A short greeting, a polite question, a quick opinion. These small lines act as anchors. They give you confidence to initiate interactions. Once the conversation begins, it flows naturally. You do not need to plan everything. You only need the first spark. The more you use these anchors, the more fluent your spontaneous speech becomes. You can also use micro-conversations to build habits of clarity. Focus on speaking slowly. Focus on articulating key words. Focus on controlling your breath. Because micro-conversations are short, you can concentrate on one small skill at a time. Over weeks, these details compound. Speaking becomes smoother, clearer, and more controlled. You become aware of your habits and refine them gradually. This steady refinement turns small exchanges into powerful training sessions. Micro-conversations also teach emotional resilience. You learn to stay calm when someone responds quickly. You learn to handle small misunderstandings without panic. You learn to breathe before answering. These subtle skills matter in every future conversation. They strengthen your self-control. They build inner steadiness. They align with the Stoic principle of meeting challenges with calm discipline. Instead of reacting impulsively, you respond with intention. You begin to realize that fluency is not an event. It is a daily practice. It is something you shape through small efforts, repeated consistently. The person who commits to one micro-conversation each day outperforms the person who studies endlessly without speaking. Real speaking develops through real speaking, even in small doses. The goal is progress, not perfection. Some days will feel smooth. Other days will feel awkward. Both matter. Both contribute. Every attempt is a step forward. Every conversation builds experience. Every piece of practice shapes the speaker you are becoming. Over time, the improvement becomes undeniable. Daily micro-conversations transform fluency because they are sustainable. They fit into any schedule. They require no extra resources. They strengthen confidence naturally. They train the mind to stay present and the tongue to express clearly. Through small, steady, disciplined practice, you build a skill that will serve you for a lifetime. The person willing to speak a little every day eventually speaks with ease, confidence, and clarity. Such is the power of consistent small actions, quiet, simple, but unstoppable. Number 2. Build vocabulary through themed weekly immersion. A stronger vocabulary is not built through random memorization or scattered study. It grows when your mind enters a focused environment, where the words you learn share a purpose, a context, and a real connection to daily life. Themed weekly immersion turns vocabulary building into a clear, structured journey, rather than a chaotic struggle. When you dedicate each week to a single theme, your brain begins to recognize patterns, link ideas, and store words more naturally. Instead of forcing words into memory, you create an atmosphere where they absorb into your thinking the way sunlight warms a room, quietly, steadily, and without effort. Choosing one theme each week simplifies your goals. You are no longer trying to learn everything at once. You are learning what belongs to one category at a time. One week might focus on travel, another on health, another on emotions, another on technology. Themes bring order. They create a sense of direction. They give your vocabulary a structure that mirrors how people actually use English. Real conversations are not random. They follow topics. When your vocabulary is trained by topics, your speech becomes clearer, more natural, and more relevant to real situations. This method deepens understanding because it teaches you more than isolated words. You start to learn phrases, expressions, collocations, and sentence patterns that belong to that theme. When you immerse yourself in one topic, you begin to see how words interact. This strengthens not only memory but also intuition. You gain a sense of how English naturally flows within that subject. Over time, these patterns help you speak with greater confidence because your mind knows how to build sentences that fit the moment. Themes also reduce overwhelm. Instead of juggling dozens of unrelated words, you concentrate on a manageable set that all connect to each other. This clarity removes mental clutter. It calms the pressure that often blocks learning. When your mind feels ordered, your focus sharpens. This creates a learning environment driven by discipline rather than chaos. You feel progress because the progress is visible. You understand more each day within the theme you're working on. Immersion strengthens memory because the theme surrounds you from different directions. You hear words in videos, read them in articles, speak them in small conversations, write them in sentences, and use them in simple reflections. This repetition through different mediums anchors the vocabulary deeper. Words learned through immersion stay much longer because they are tied to experiences, not just notes. They become part of your daily thinking. Each new week brings a fresh challenge, a new field of meaning, and a renewed sense of purpose. This creates momentum. The mind thrives when it feels a clear path ahead. Themed weeks give you that path. You know exactly what to learn, how to practice, and what direction to move in. This builds consistency, which is the heart of mastery. The discipline of sticking to one theme each week turns vocabulary building into a habit rather than a chore, and habits are what build fluency. Begin each themed week by choosing 10 to 15 core words. These act as the anchor, then expand naturally. Add related phrases, expressions, and verbs. Listen to short videos about the topic. Notice how native speakers use these words in real contexts. Feel the tone, rhythm, and emotion behind them. This type of observation builds intuitive understanding, something that memorization alone can never provide. When you immerse yourself in a theme, engage with it actively. Write your own sentences. Reflect on real situations where these words could be used. Picture yourself in moments where these expressions fit naturally. This mental engagement sharpens retention. It turns vocabulary into a tool you can use, not something you simply recall. Themed immersion also teaches discipline. It trains you to stay committed to one focus, even when your mind wants to jump around. This control builds the same inner steadiness needed for fluency. You are training your mind to stay anchored, to avoid distraction, and to move through learning with intention rather than impulse. These qualities strengthen every area of language learning. There is deep value in repetition within a theme. Not mechanical repetition, but meaningful repetition. Reading a short story about the topic, watching a video, listening to a conversation, repeating phrases aloud, asking yourself questions in English related to the theme, using the new vocabulary in micro-conversations. Every repetition adds texture to your understanding. You begin to speak more confidently because you have heard and used the vocabulary multiple times in multiple contexts. A theme becomes even stronger when it appears in your real life. For example, during a week focused on food, notice restaurant menus, listen to food-related podcasts, read recipes, describe meals in English. During a week focused on emotions, reflect on your feelings using new vocabulary. Observe how people describe their emotions in shows, Read short quotes about emotional states. Context deepens memory. It transforms vocabulary from information into communication. Another benefit of themed immersion is that it builds practical fluency. You become skilled in expressing yourself within topics that matter in everyday life. You gain the ability to describe experiences, explain situations, and respond naturally. This practical fluency boosts confidence because you begin to feel capable of handling real conversations instead of textbook dialogues. As you progress from week to week, your vocabulary becomes more organized. You know where each word belongs. You remember them because they form mental categories. Themes shape your internal dictionary. They create mental drawers that you can open easily when needed. This organization reduces hesitation during speech. You no longer search desperately for words because your mind knows where to find them. Immersion within a theme also enhances your listening ability. When you focus on a theme, your ears become more sensitive to that field of vocabulary. You begin to catch words you once missed. You understand sentences more quickly. Listening becomes clearer because your mind is prepared for the vocabulary that appears often within that theme. This improvement leads to smoother conversations because understanding always comes before expression. The discipline of weekly themes develops patience. Vocabulary does not grow instantly. It grows gradually through consistent exposure and steady use. Themed immersion teaches you to respect that process, to trust that daily steps accumulate, to stay committed even when progress feels slow. This mentality shapes not only your vocabulary but also your character. You learn to build skills with persistence rather than impatience. With time, your vocabulary becomes richer, deeper, and more functional. You no longer rely on basic words because you possess cleaner, more precise expressions. This precision transforms your communication. You express yourself with clarity, not struggle. You speak with intention, not guesswork. Your English begins to reflect your thoughts accurately. This alignment between thought and expression is what true fluency feels like. Each themed week becomes a stepping stone toward mastery. As you move through themes month after month, the improvement becomes undeniable. Words you once struggled with become natural. Phrases you once hesitated to use become part of your everyday speech. You begin to feel a growing sense of confidence because your vocabulary has depth, structure, and purpose. This confidence spreads into every conversation, making communication smoother and more fulfilling. Themed weekly immersion is more than a method. It is a practice of discipline, focus, and consistency. It trains your mind to grow steadily, to learn with intention, and to handle English with clarity. Through this practice, you build a vocabulary that supports your fluency, strengthens your confidence, and prepares you for real communication. Week by week, theme by theme, your English evolves, not through force, but through steady, disciplined immersion. Number 3. Shadow native speakers for rhythm mastery. Speaking a language is more than forming sentences. It is a living rhythm carried through breath, tone, and timing. Every native speaker moves through English with a natural pace that gives their words life. This rhythm is subtle, yet powerful. It shapes the meaning behind each sentence. It creates emotion, emphasis, and clarity. When you shadow native speakers, you are not copying words, you are absorbing the natural music of the language. This practice builds an internal sense of flow that textbooks cannot teach. Rhythm is not learned through silence. It is learned through echoing what you hear with full presence and attention. Shadowing works because it places you inside the sound of real English. You listen and speak at the same time, matching the speaker's tone, speed, pauses, and energy. This removes the habit of using your native language's rhythm when speaking English. Every language has its own musical pattern, and when you speak English with the rhythm of another language, it can feel unnatural and harder to understand. Shadowing teaches your mouth, mind, and breath to move with the natural cadence of English. Over time, this transforms your speech from mechanical to fluid, helping you express ideas more smoothly. The first key to shadowing is choosing the right material. Not every audio source supports rhythm learning. You need voices that carry clarity, emotion, and natural pacing. Films, interviews, speeches, and well-produced podcasts are ideal because they show how people speak in everyday or meaningful contexts. You begin to hear how questions rise at the end, how statements fall, how opinions carry emphasis, and how storytellers shift their voice to guide the listener. By shadowing these nuances, you absorb the true feel of English. Start with short segments. A few seconds at a time is enough in the beginning. Listen once, then shadow immediately. Match every subtle detail, the length of the vowels, the sharpness of consonants, the breath between phrases. This level of attention builds an instinct for rhythm. You are not memorizing, you are training muscle memory. Your tongue learns the movements. Your breath adjusts to English pacing. Your ears tune into patterns that once felt invisible. This practice builds skill quietly, almost without noticing. Shadowing also strengthens confidence because it removes hesitation. When you follow a native speaker in real time, your mind stops overthinking grammar and focuses instead on sound. You speak without analyzing every word. This teaches spontaneity. It teaches comfort with fast speech. It teaches you to trust your ability to produce language naturally. The more you shadow, the more your internal rhythm aligns with real English speech. Another powerful aspect of shadowing is that it exposes you to authentic emotion. Native speakers express feelings through tone, stress, and slight variations in speed. A pause can show doubt. A rising tone can show enthusiasm. A softer voice can show empathy. These emotional signals are just as important as vocabulary. Shadowing teaches you how to communicate emotion in English with precision. You begin to understand not just what people say but how they say it, and why it matters. This practice also builds patience. At first, shadowing may feel challenging. You may fall behind, miss words, or stumble through sentences. This discomfort is a sign of growth. Shadowing demands full concentration, and concentration is a skill strengthened through repetition. Every attempt trains your focus. Over weeks, you begin to keep up more easily. Your reaction time improves. Your tongue adapts faster. Your rhythm becomes more steady. This slow, persistent improvement mirrors the discipline required for self-mastery. One of the most effective ways to deepen shadowing practice is to choose material that matches your current emotional state. When you feel calm, shadow soothing voices. When you feel motivated, choose energetic speakers. When you feel reflective, shadow storytellers or educators. Matching your mood makes the practice feel natural. Your voice begins to connect with the emotion behind the words, not just their structure. This emotional alignment strengthens your speaking presence and makes your communication more expressive. Shadowing also trains listening on a deeper level. You begin to hear slight shifts in tone that you once ignored. You notice how native speakers connect words smoothly, how they reduce sounds, how they emphasize key ideas. This improves comprehension. Listening no longer feels like decoding. It becomes intuitive. You catch details more quickly. You understand context without effort. This improvement in listening feeds back into your speaking, creating a cycle of growth. A valuable technique within shadowing is to vary your speed. First, match the speaker exactly, then try slightly slower, keeping the same rhythm. Then try slightly faster, still maintaining the same pattern. This flexibility strengthens your control. It teaches you to handle conversations with different speeds: fast speakers, slow speakers, enthusiastic speakers, calm speakers. You develop adaptability, an essential part of fluency. Shadowing builds discipline because it requires presence. The mind cannot wander. You must stay with every word, every breath, every shift in tone. This trains concentration, which carries into every part of your language learning journey. You develop the skill of staying focused on the moment, a core principle of inner mastery. The practice becomes meditative. You enter a state where your mind, breath, and voice work together with quiet harmony. Over time, shadowing shapes your spoken identity. You begin to speak with more assurance. Your tone becomes steady. Your words flow more naturally. You build a sense of balance in your speech, neither rushed nor hesitant. This balance makes you easier to understand. People listen more comfortably because your voice carries clarity and rhythm. Communication becomes smoother. You no longer rely solely on vocabulary. You use rhythm to give meaning to your sentences. Shadowing also strengthens memory in a unique way. When you echo natural speech, you attach words to patterns. These patterns help you recall expressions effortlessly in real conversations. Your mind remembers not only the word, but also the way it was said. This connection allows you to speak more naturally in spontaneous situations. You no longer search for words, they come to you with familiar rhythm. The practice becomes even more powerful when you record yourself occasionally. Listening to your own shadowing reveals subtle details where your tone differs, where your rhythm breaks, where your breath shortens. These observations guide improvement. You learn to adjust with precision. This self-awareness sharpens your command of English speech. As you continue shadowing daily, the transformation becomes noticeable. You feel more connected to the language. Conversations flow with greater ease. You understand native speakers more quickly, and they understand you more clearly. Your speech develops its own sense of timing, shaped by consistent exposure to natural rhythm. This is not imitation, it is mastery built through disciplined repetition. Shadowing native speakers is not a shortcut. It is a deep, steady practice that reshapes your relationship with English. It teaches you how the language feels, not just how it works. It trains your voice to move with calm confidence. It gives you the rhythm that makes speech sound natural, expressive, and alive. Through consistent shadowing, you build a foundation of fluency, rooted in clarity, attention, and discipline. Over time, your voice aligns with the natural flow of English, and your communication becomes smoother, stronger, and more authentic. Number 4. Record voice daily to refine articulation. There is a quiet power in hearing your own voice. Most people speak every day without ever listening to themselves, unaware of the patterns, habits, and small details that shape how they communicate. Recording your voice daily changes this. It creates a mirror for your speech, revealing strengths you can build on and weaknesses you can correct. This practice strengthens articulation because it forces you to confront the reality of your sound. Every syllable, every pause, every shift in tone. The moment you begin listening to yourself with intention, growth becomes unavoidable. You gain clarity about what needs improvement, and clarity is the first step toward mastery. Daily voice recording turns speaking from a passive action into a deliberate skill. Each recording becomes a snapshot of your current level, a reference point that allows you to measure progress over time. You start noticing patterns that were invisible before. Maybe your endings fade, maybe your consonants soften, maybe your volume drops in the middle of a sentence. These small details often hold the key to stronger articulation. Without recording, they remain hidden. With recording, they become clear targets for improvement. The act of speaking into a recorder also changes how you breathe. When you know you will listen afterward, you naturally pay attention to your breath control. You begin to sense where breath runs short, where it rushes, where it steadies. This awareness sharpens your articulation because breath supports every word. Strong breath makes speech sharp, clear, and confident. Shallow breath makes speech shaky and unfocused. Daily recordings help you refine this connection until your breathing becomes smoother and your articulation becomes stronger. Recording your voice teaches discipline because it requires consistency, even on days when you feel unmotivated. Speaking aloud for just a few minutes may seem simple, but maintaining the practice day after day builds mental strength. It becomes a ritual that strengthens your commitment to improvement. Through repetition, your voice becomes more controlled. Your articulation sharpens not through force, but through steady refinement. This discipline shapes your character as much as it shapes your speech. The value of recording lies in the honesty it forces upon you. You cannot hide from the sound of your own voice. You hear every hesitation, every unclear moment, every rushed phrase, but you also hear progress. You hear improvements that others may not notice yet. You hear clarity beginning to take shape. This honesty creates motivation because you witness your efforts turning into results. It becomes easier to continue the practice when you can hear proof of your growth. To refine articulation, choose simple material to record each day. A short paragraph, a personal reflection, a summary of your day, or a few sentences from a book. Speak with presence. Focus on pronouncing each sound cleanly. Feel your tongue, your jaw, your breath. This type of mindful speaking trains your vocal muscles the same way athletes train their bodies. Articulation is physical. It requires precision. A daily recording routine builds that precision steadily. Once you finish recording, listen carefully. Do not judge harshly. Instead, observe. Notice where your voice sounds unclear. Notice where your pace shifts unexpectedly. Notice whether your vowels stretch evenly and whether your consonants land cleanly. These small observations guide your improvement. They teach you to speak more intentionally the next day. Over time, the adjustments become natural. Your articulation strengthens without forcing artificial speech. One of the most valuable insights that comes from recording is discovering your natural tone. Many learners believe their voice sounds strange or weak simply because they have never listened to it closely. But familiarity creates comfort. When you listen daily, you begin to recognize the unique qualities of your tone. You notice what gives your voice presence. You notice how your sound changes with emotion. This comfort makes you more confident when speaking, and confidence naturally sharpens articulation. Daily recordings also reveal the connection between emotion and clarity. When you feel relaxed, your speech smooths out. When you feel rushed, your articulation suffers. By listening to your recordings over days and weeks, you learn how emotion affects your voice. This teaches emotional control. You learn to steady your tone even when nervous. You learn to slow your pace even when pressured. You learn to maintain clarity even when expressing strong feelings. This type of control strengthens both communication and inner discipline. Recording encourages you to experiment. You can try different speeds, tones, and styles without fear of judgment, because the only person listening is you. Try speaking more slowly one day, more expressively the next, more sharply another day. Each experiment reveals something new about your articulation. You discover which style brings the most clarity. You discover how small adjustments make large differences in sound. These insights make your speaking more flexible and dynamic. With time, your recordings become a timeline of your progress. Listening to older clips can be surprisingly motivating. You hear the improvements you might have forgotten. You realize how far you've come. This reinforces discipline. Improvement becomes tangible. When progress feels visible, it becomes easier to maintain consistency. Each recording becomes evidence that daily effort pays off. Recording your voice also prepares you for real conversations. Many learners struggle to express themselves clearly under pressure because they have never practiced speaking with awareness. Daily recordings build this awareness. You learn to control your tone. You learn to keep your pace steady. You learn to articulate clearly even when thinking on the spot. These skills translate directly into smoother conversations. Another powerful benefit of voice recording is that it breaks self-consciousness. The more you listen to yourself, the less uncomfortable your voice feels. The sound that once felt unfamiliar becomes normal. You begin to accept your voice rather than criticize it. This acceptance builds confidence, and confidence enhances articulation naturally. Clear speech grows from a calm mind. Articulation also improves when you practice reading aloud. When you read aloud into a recorder, you focus on shaping each word with precision. This strengthens the muscles responsible for speech. Over time, your clarity improves. Even when speaking spontaneously, reading aloud also exposes you to new words and sentence structures, challenging you to articulate more complex sounds. Recording your voice daily shapes your identity as a speaker. You begin to see yourself as someone committed to growth, someone willing to put in the work, someone who does not hide from challenges. This identity strengthens every part of your communication. You approach conversations with greater calm. You express yourself with more authority. You speak with intention instead of rushing through sentences. Through the quiet discipline of daily recording, your articulation sharpens, your voice becomes clearer, your tone steadier, your confidence stronger. The transformation does not happen all at once, but it becomes undeniable with time. Each recording trains your ear, your breath, your muscles, and your awareness. And through this steady practice, your spoken English evolves into something far more confident, precise, and powerful than you imagine. Number 5. Strengthen pronunciation using targeted sound drills. Every language has its own music, and mastering English pronunciation begins by learning how to shape the sounds that create that music with intention and precision. Strengthening pronunciation through targeted sound drills is not about forcing your mouth to move unnaturally. It's about training your muscles, your hearing, and your awareness to work together until clear speech becomes your natural state. Many learners believe pronunciation improves simply by listening a lot, but true progress comes from deliberate, structured practice that isolates problem sounds and trains them repeatedly until the tongue, lips, and vocal cords respond instantly. This focused training builds the foundation that fluency rests on, because without clean sounds, even rich vocabulary and perfect grammar feel weak when spoken aloud. Begin by acknowledging that English includes sounds that may not exist in your native language. Some require pushing air out sharply, some require shaping the tongue in unfamiliar ways, and others involve subtle distinctions that the ear must learn to detect. Targeted drills allow you to break each sound apart and practice it, like an athlete training individual muscle groups. You start slowly, exaggerate the movements at first, and then reduce REM as your control improves. This process rewires your speech habits, replacing guesswork with consistent accuracy. Before diving into drills, warm up your mouth with small mobility exercises. Stretch your lips wide as in a big smile, then round them tightly. Move your jaw gently from side to side. Touch your tongue to each corner of your mouth. These movements awaken the muscles you need to produce crisp sounds. Once warmed up, focus on a single sound at a time rather than jumping between many. Concentration helps the brain build specific neural pathways for each sound, and it helps the ear become sensitive to subtle differences you may have previously missed. Start with sounds that commonly challenge learners, such as the English "the." Many languages don't require placing the tongue lightly between the teeth, so this motion initially feels strange. A useful drill is to repeat soft "the" sounds in a slow rhythm. "The," then insert them into short syllables like "the." Observing how the tongue flicks outward just enough for the airflow to escape cleanly. As you progress, insert the sound into short words, then longer ones, building comfort step by step. Over time, the motion becomes fluid rather than conscious effort. Another area that often needs deliberate work is the distinction between similar sounds such as V and W. In many languages, these merge into a single sound, but in English they create different meanings. Targeted drills help create separation. Practice the V sound by gently touching the bottom lip to the top teeth and letting your voice vibrate as air passes. Then shift to the W sound, which uses rounded lips and no vibration. Repeat pairs like vine, wine, vest, west, vow, wow, focusing on the contrast. Controlled drills train your mouth to switch between sounds instantly, making your speech clearer and more confident. Consonant clusters are another challenge that targeted drills can solve. English often stacks several consonants together, creating combinations like straw, spill, or thr that require precise timing. Break each cluster down into smaller parts, then reassemble them. For example, practice say, then str, gradually increasing speed while maintaining clarity. This approach removes the tension many learners feel when encountering these tricky combinations, replacing it with smooth, effortless flow. Vowels also require dedicated attention, especially because English features many more vowel sounds than most languages. The difference between ship and sheep or full and fool can completely change the meaning of a sentence. Targeted drills help tune your ear and shape your mouth correctly. Practice minimal pairs by repeating them slowly, then in short phrases, then in natural speech. Over time, your brain becomes more sensitive to these differences, and you gain the ability to produce the right sound without hesitation. Rhythm and stress patterns are equally important, and targeted drills can help align your speech with natural English cadence. English is a stress-timed language, meaning certain syllables receive emphasis while others become softer. Practice repeating short sentences with exaggerated stress on key words, gradually normalizing the rhythm as it becomes comfortable. This improves both clarity and listener engagement, because proper stress guides meaning and makes your speech easier to follow. Recording yourself during drills accelerates improvement. The microphone reveals details your ears miss in real time. After each practice session, listen closely, compare your sound with a native model, and identify areas to adjust. The goal isn't perfection overnight, but continuous refinement. Through attentive repetition, when you notice your tongue slipping or your vowels drifting, pause and reset the motion. This mindful correction strengthens muscle memory far more effectively than rushing through drills without awareness. To maintain progress, schedule short but consistent drill sessions rather than long, irregular ones. 5 to 10 minutes daily can transform your pronunciation far more quickly than an hour of occasional practice. Consistency tells your brain that these sound patterns matter, and repetition turns new motions into reflexes. Treat each session as a chance to refine your control rather than simply repeat what you already know. As your confidence grows, integrate the improved sounds into real speech. Use them while reading aloud, during conversations, and when practicing spontaneous speaking. Notice how much easier it becomes to express your thoughts when your pronunciation feels reliable. People listen differently when your words are crisp. Communication becomes smoother because your clarity builds trust and reduces misunderstandings. Targeted sound drills are not a rigid chore. They are a gateway to greater freedom in English. They remove the stress of guessing how to pronounce unfamiliar words. They elevate your presence when speaking, and they help your voice sound more grounded and intentional. The more precisely you control each sound, the more natural your overall speech becomes. With steady practice, your pronunciation stops being something you think about and becomes something you command. The effort you invest in mastering each sound pays off every time you speak, whether in conversation, interviews, presentations, or everyday interactions. These drills reshape your voice into a tool you can rely on completely, giving you the confidence to speak English with clarity, assurance, and impact. Number 6. Replace fillers by training deliberate pauses. Many learners speak English fluently in their minds, yet the moment they open their mouths, their sentences become tangled with fillers like, and like. These small verbal crutches slip in because the brain is searching for the next word, the next idea, or the next structure. Instead of giving yourself space to think, you fill the silence with noise. Training yourself to replace fillers with deliberate pauses transforms your speech from scattered to composed, from hesitant to confident. A pause communicates that you are choosing your words with intention, and it gives your listener a moment to absorb what you just said. Learning this technique is an essential step toward polished, impactful English. To begin mastering this skill, it's important to recognize that silence is not a sign of weakness. Many learners panic the moment they sense a gap forming, convinced that silence exposes them as unprepared or unsure. But in reality, silence is a powerful communication tool. Great speakers, whether in business, education, or entertainment, use pauses strategically to control rhythm, create emphasis, and direct attention. Your goal is to shift your mindset so that pauses feel natural instead of threatening. When you embrace silence, fillers lose their grip because the urge to cover every microsecond of speech disappears. Start by noticing your filler patterns. Everyone uses fillers differently. Some insert them at the beginning of sentences, others squeeze them between thoughts, and some scatter them throughout every phrase. Spend a day listening to yourself during conversations, or better yet, record a short monologue. Play it back with attention, marking each filler mentally. You'll begin to see recurring habits, places where your brain wants more time. These are the moments where deliberate pauses will soon replace automatic fillers. Once you've identified your patterns, slow down your speech intentionally during practice sessions. Speaking at a slightly reduced pace gives your mind a chance to form ideas ahead of your voice. This reduces the panic that causes fillers to spill out unconsciously. To train this skill, pick a simple topic and speak for 1 minute at half your normal speed. As you talk, allow natural pauses to appear whenever you need to gather your thoughts. Don't rush to fill them. Let them exist as purposeful silence. This exercise rewires your instinct to treat silence as something to fear. Another powerful technique is controlled breathing. When your breathing is rushed, your speech becomes rushed. When you slow your breath, your mind settles and your speech becomes calmer. Practice speaking while synchronizing your sentences with your breathing cycle. Inhale, speak a phrase, pause, inhale again, and continue. This not only reduces fillers, but also improves vocal stability. When your breath supports your speech, your voice becomes more grounded, and pauses feel like part of a natural flow rather than interruptions. To increase your comfort with silence, practice what actors call thought pauses. These are intentional breaks that serve as transitions between ideas. Choose a short paragraph to read aloud, but insert small pauses before key phrases or new thoughts. This trains your pacing and helps you understand how silence can highlight meaning rather than disrupt it. Over time, you'll begin inserting similar pauses into your spontaneous speech, replacing fillers with moments of clarity. Another effective exercise involves answering common questions slowly and thoughtfully. For example, take the question, "What did you do today?" Instead of responding immediately, pause for a second or two before beginning your answer. Train yourself to begin speaking only after you've shaped your first sentence in your mind. This habit strengthens mental organization and reduces the need for fillers at the start of your response. It also conditions you to trust that your listener will wait for you, reduces performance pressure. Visualization can also help. Before speaking, picture the shape of your answer as if it were a simple path, a beginning, a middle, and an end. You don't need full sentences in your mind, just a sense of direction. When your mind has structure, your speech flows more smoothly, and fillers decrease naturally. Pauses become logical points between steps instead of emergency spaces where your brain scrambles for the next idea. Another strategy is to replace fillers with micro breaks that engage your body instead of your voice. For example, when you feel a filler rising, gently nod, shift your gaze, or take a slow breath. These small movements anchor you in the moment and give your thoughts time to form. They also communicate confidence to your listener, because controlled body language shows you are present and deliberate. Over time, your body learns to support your speech instead of sabotaging it with nervous habits. To refine your skill even further, practice giving short explanations with a focus on clarity rather than speed. Choose a simple topic and explain it as if teaching a beginner. Each time you reach a natural transition point, pause briefly before continuing. This exercise sharpens your sense of where pauses belong and strengthens your ability to express ideas in a structured, calm manner. You'll notice that your speech becomes more organized, your tone more engaging, and your presence more assured. As your confidence grows, introduce more challenging topics that require deeper thought. The more complex the idea, the more valuable pauses become. When discussing something abstract or technical, lean into silence as a tool for precision. Take a moment to find the right wording, then speak clearly. This not only reduces fillers, but also elevates the quality of your expression. Listeners perceive you as articulate because your thoughts emerge cleanly and purposefully. Toward the later stage of your training, integrate deliberate pauses into real conversations. Start with low-pressure interactions, friends, study partners, or relaxed discussions. Notice how often fillers try to surface and consciously replace them with brief silence. Over time, this will become your new instinct. And when you speak with someone in a professional or formal setting, your composed pacing will make a significant impact. People trust speakers who sound deliberate, and your speech will carry more weight as a result. Finally, remind yourself that communication is not a race. Your goal is not to speak faster, but to speak better. The world doesn't reward rushed speech, it rewards clarity. Every pause is a moment that strengthens your message and deepens your connection with the listener. Replacing fillers with intentional silence is a powerful step toward mastering English speaking skills, and as you develop this ability, your confidence will expand in ways that touch every conversation you have. Through steady practice, mindful speaking, and a willingness to slow down, your voice becomes a tool you control rather than a source of stress. And once pauses become your ally, your speech will transform into something calmer, clearer, and more compelling than ever before. Number 7. Expand expression through structured storytelling practice. Storytelling is one of the oldest ways human beings have communicated meaning, shared wisdom, and connected with one another. When you practice structured storytelling, you step into a tradition that has shaped cultures, built communities, and strengthened relationships for centuries. It sharpens your ability to express yourself with clarity, depth, and emotion. It also helps you develop a natural flow in English, because stories require rhythm, pacing, vocabulary variation, and emotional awareness, all elements that strengthen speaking skills. Many learners overlook this approach, thinking storytelling is only for writers or performers, but in reality, every conversation you have is a form of storytelling. You describe your day, share your plans, assign your thoughts, and express your feelings through stories. Once you learn to shape these moments intentionally, your expression becomes more vivid and more engaging. The first step is understanding why stories hold power. Human minds are wired to remember narratives more easily than isolated information. When you speak in a structured way using a beginning, middle, and end, your listener remains engaged and your message becomes clearer. This structure keeps you grounded, preventing your thoughts from scattering or jumping around. It also helps you form sentences deliberately rather than allowing random phrases to spill out. When your expression follows a story flow, your speaking becomes smoother and your confidence grows because you always know where you're heading. To begin strengthening this skill, start with small, simple stories. Choose everyday moments that require no pressure: a walk you took, a conversation you had, or a task you completed. Instead of recounting the experience as a list of events, imagine it as a journey. Describe how the situation began, what unfolded, and how it ended. Add sensory details that deepen the listener's understanding, how something looked, sounded, or felt. These small additions bring life to your words. You aren't trying to impress anyone. You are training your mind to organize thoughts in a way that flows naturally. Storytelling also encourages emotional awareness. When you speak about something you felt, joy, frustration, surprise, you allow your expression to carry more color. This isn't about dramatizing, it's about letting the listener sense your experience. Doing this in English teaches you how to choose words that match your feelings. Over time, you gain access to a broader emotional vocabulary, which makes you more articulate and more authentic. One effective practice is recounting your day as a mini-story each night. Instead of saying, "My day was fine," break it into scenes. Describe what you expected in the morning, a moment that stood out, and what you learned or noticed by the end. This practice strengthens sequencing skills, which are essential for coherent speech. It also trains your mind to observe your life with more attention, making you more aware of details you can share later. With daily storytelling, even the most ordinary experiences become opportunities to expand your expression. Another powerful method is retelling stories you already know. Choose a short fable, a movie scene, or a personal memory, and explain it with your own words. When you do this, you stretch your vocabulary in new directions because you must recreate meaning using your own style. You're not memorizing, you're building linguistic flexibility. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes to speak without depending on scripted lines or translations from your native language. You learn how to construct your own narrative flow, even when you're describing something unfamiliar. Structured storytelling also teaches you how to create smooth transitions between ideas. Many learners struggle with connecting their thoughts, which leads to sudden jumps or abrupt shifts in speech. When you practice telling stories, transitions become natural. Words like "then," "after that," "suddenly," and "later" help guide your listener. These connectors not only make your story easier to follow, but also give your mind more time to shape the next sentence, reducing hesitation. With enough practice, you'll find yourself using transitions naturally in everyday conversation. As your comfort grows, challenge yourself with more detailed storytelling exercises. Pick a single moment from your past and explore it deeply. Describe the environment, your emotions, and the thoughts running through your mind. Try to convey why that moment mattered to you. This level of reflection strengthens your descriptive skills and helps you build longer, more intricate sentences. It also expands your ability to express abstract ideas, which is a significant step toward fluency. You can also strengthen this skill by observing great storytellers. Listen to narrators, speakers, or actors who tell stories with clarity and emotion. Pay attention to how they pace their sentences, how they use pauses, and how they emphasize certain details. You'll notice that they don't rush, they guide you through the experience with confidence. When you shadow them or model their technique, you absorb patterns that enhance your own speech. Over time, your storytelling becomes more natural, and your spoken English gains depth. Practice also involves speaking about hypothetical scenarios. This is particularly useful because it forces you to use imagination, not just memory. For example, describe what you would do if you had an unexpected free day, or how you would prepare for a long journey. These exercises stretch your creativity and help you practice speaking without relying on actual events. They encourage you to form sentences that explore possibilities, allowing you to use conditional structures, descriptive language, and future-oriented ideas. Another method is storytelling through objects. Choose something around you, a pen, a key, a piece of clothing, and create a short story around it. Imagine where it came from, who used it, or what role it plays in your life. This technique strengthens your ability to speak spontaneously. It also teaches you how to form meaning from simple things, which is a valuable skill in real conversations. It shows you how to speak even when you think you have nothing to say. When you reach a comfortable level with these exercises, begin sharing stories in real conversations. This is where the practice becomes transformative. Instead of answering questions with short, closed responses, use small stories to convey meaning. If someone asks how your weekend was, share a small moment rather than giving a one-word reply. If someone asks how you learned something, describe the path rather than the result. Doing this makes your conversations richer and helps your listener understand you more deeply. It also boosts your confidence because you're expressing yourself fully instead of holding back. The discipline of storytelling also brings clarity to your thoughts. When you practice shaping your ideas into a narrative, you see your own experiences more clearly. You learn to express them without confusion. This clarity reduces anxiety during conversations because your mind stays organized. You no longer scramble for words. You guide your listener through your thoughts with intention. Structured storytelling strengthens your memory too. As you recall events and describe them, your brain becomes better at retrieving language when you need it. You stop relying on mental translations and start forming sentences directly in English. This is one of the keys to true fluency, thinking in the language rather than assembling pieces from your native tongue. Over time, storytelling becomes your natural mode of expression. Instead of struggling to find words, you develop a flow that carries you from one idea to the next. You sound more confident, more expressive, and more engaging. People will want to listen to you not just because you speak English, but because you speak it with meaning. This skill will strengthen every aspect of your communication, conversations, presentations, interviews, and everyday interaction. Through consistent practice, structured storytelling becomes more than an exercise. It becomes a way to expand your identity through language. You learn to speak with intention, describe your experiences vividly, and share your thoughts with clarity. As your storytelling ability grows, your English-speaking skills transform into something richer, more expressive, and more powerful than you ever imagined. Number 8. Improve spontaneity with rapid response speaking prompts. Spontaneity in speaking is the ability to respond with clarity, confidence, and speed without overthinking every word. Many learners feel a heavy pause before speaking, not because they lack knowledge, but because their mind searches for perfect phrasing. That hesitation creates tension, and the more pressure they feel, the slower their responses become. Rapid response speaking prompts break this cycle by training your brain to produce language instinctively. This skill grows through exposure, repetition, and mental agility. With consistent practice, you begin forming sentences automatically, without relying on translations or long pauses. Spontaneity is not born from talent. It is shaped through deliberate training that teaches your mind to trust itself. The first shift happens when you stop demanding perfection from your spoken English. Many learners freeze because they believe every sentence must be flawless. This mindset blocks natural expression. Spontaneous speaking requires permission to be imperfect while still being clear. You are not aiming for a polished speech every time. You are teaching your brain to read to smoothly under everyday conversational pressure. As you relax into this mindset, your responses begin flowing more freely, and the fear of making mistakes fades into the background. Rapid response prompts work because they encourage immediate engagement. You hear or read a question and you respond within seconds. There is no room for hesitation. These prompts strengthen the mental pathway between thought and expression. The more often you practice them, the faster that pathway becomes. It's like training reflexes. What begins as effort eventually becomes instinct. Over time, you notice that your mind starts forming sentences before you consciously think about them, and this marks the beginning of true fluency. To start building this skill, choose simple prompts that reflect everyday situations. Questions like, "What made you smile today?" or "What would you cook for a guest?" work well because they're familiar and easy to answer. The goal is speed, not complexity. Set a timer for 10 seconds and answer immediately. This short time frame forces you to speak without overanalyzing. At first, it may feel uncomfortable, but the discomfort is a sign that your brain is adapting. With repetition, your responses become smoother and more confident. As you grow comfortable with basic prompts, increase difficulty gradually. Introduce questions that require quick reasoning or descriptive language. For example, explain your opinion on a simple topic, describe something from your memory, or explain a process you know well. These exercises strengthen your ability to build coherent sentences spontaneously. Even if your sentences feel scattered at first, keep going. The mind learns through active use, not passive familiarity. Another effective technique is to practice speed description tasks. Look around you, pick an object, and describe it instantly. Talk about its color, purpose, or how it makes you feel. This develops your ability to generate language from the environment around you, which mimics real conversation more closely than rehearsed answers. The more you describe things spontaneously, the easier it becomes to speak in a relaxed and expressive manner during real interactions. You can also incorporate rapid story-building exercises. Pick a random topic, a memory, an image, or even a sound, and create a short, spontaneous explanation around it. You're not aiming for a detailed story, you're practicing the ability to begin speaking immediately and continue without stopping. This builds flow, momentum, and improvisation skills. As your storytelling ability strengthens, your spontaneous speech gains clarity and direction, even when responding to unexpected questions. Shadowing also supports spontaneity, but in a different way. Instead of repeating long sections of content, choose short, fast-paced lines like reactions, emotional expressions, or quick comments. By repeating these with speed and accuracy, you train your tongue and mind to work together. This builds verbal agility and prepares you for real conversations where reactions matter. When you can imitate quick phrases naturally, your own spontaneous responses begin emerging with ease. Another method involves practicing with unpredictable prompts. Write several questions or scenarios on small slips of paper and shuffle them. Pick one randomly and begin speaking immediately. This unpredictability simulates real-life conversations, where you cannot predict what someone will ask next. Training with random prompts teaches your mind to adapt quickly and trust your ability to articulate thoughts under pressure. For added challenge, practice time-limited monologues. Choose a topic and speak continuously for 30 seconds without pausing. Then extend the time to 1 minute. This forces your mind to keep generating sentences, even when you feel short of ideas. You learn to expand on simple points, add detail, and maintain flow. This type of exercise builds resilience in speaking, teaching you how to continue even when your mind wants to stop. Over time, it becomes easier to express your ideas without gaps or hesitation. You can strengthen spontaneity by practicing rebuttals or quick opinions. Take a statement, any statement, and respond immediately with your agreement or disagreement and a brief reason. This exercise sharpens your ability to think critically while speaking. It builds the mental flexibility needed for discussions, debates, and everyday exchanges where you must react quickly. The more you practice short, sharp responses, the more confident you become in spontaneous conversations. Another approach is listening to speaking conversion. Listen to a short audio clip, just a sentence or two, and respond instantly as if you were in the conversation. This simulates real interaction and builds reactive speaking skills. It also forces your mind to process information quickly and respond within context. This type of practice strengthens not just spontaneity, but also comprehension and adaptability. As your skill grows, integrate spontaneous speaking into real-life situations. Respond quickly to casual messages, voice notes, or conversational questions. Avoid rehearsing mentally. Instead, speak directly, using the momentum you've been training. You will notice that your responses come more naturally, and you no longer fear making small mistakes. The more you engage spontaneously in real settings, the more fluent and relaxed your speaking becomes. Improving spontaneity also strengthens self-trust. Many learners hesitate because they don't fully trust their own English. Rapid response prompts rebuild this trust. Each time you speak instantly, even imperfectly, you teach your mind that it can handle the challenge. Confidence rises, anxiety decreases, and your speaking becomes more natural. Spontaneity grows from the consistent willingness to try, to respond, and to stretch beyond comfort. With enough practice, rapid response training becomes second nature. You begin speaking with a sense of ease that wasn't there before. You respond faster, express yourself more clearly, and handle unexpected questions without freezing. Your conversations feel more alive, more engaging, and more authentic. As spontaneity strengthens, so does your overall fluency. You stop focusing on individual words and begin expressing ideas as a whole. This marks a major shift in your journey, one where speaking English feels less like a task and more like a natural part of who you are. Through disciplined practice and a commitment to growth, you discover that spontaneity is a skill anyone can master. It is built through repetition, shaped through courage, and refined through consistent effort. With rapid response speaking prompts guiding your progress, your mind becomes quicker, your voice stronger, and your confidence unshakable. Number 9. Boost confidence through gradual real-life interactions. A quiet shift begins the moment someone decides to build confidence through real-life interactions. Progress doesn't arrive in a dramatic wave, it unfolds in small, steady steps that reshape how you express yourself. This approach transforms English speaking from something that feels intimidating into something that feels natural, familiar, and even enjoyable. The goal is not perfection or flawless fluency, it's comfort, control, and the courage to use your voice in situations that once felt overwhelming. With each interaction, a new layer of confidence forms, and the language becomes less of a challenge and more of a tool you command with ease. Start by embracing interactions that carry almost no pressure. These can be exchanges that last only a few seconds, but still require you to speak English aloud. Ordering a drink, asking for a price, requesting directions, or greeting someone in English are perfect examples. These short moments bring your speaking skills into the real world without the fear of long conversations or demanding responses. As you repeat these tiny actions, they teach your brain that speaking English in public is safe and manageable. The anxiety softens because your mind begins associating English with success instead of fear. Once you become comfortable with these micro-interactions, expand to slightly longer conversations. Talk to customer service agents, store employees, or receptionists who are used to helping people and won't judge your pace or mistakes. These interactions naturally guide you through predictable patterns, answering questions, clarifying information, or giving quick details. Each exchange strengthens your ability to respond spontaneously, while hearing your own voice in a calm, structured environment. Over time, you realize that progression isn't limited to vocabulary or grammar. It also includes emotional readiness and mental stability. As your confidence grows, you can move into conversations that require more personal expression. Language exchange partners, community meetups, online discussion groups, or practice circles offer the perfect next step. Here, you're not simply retrieving memorized sentences, you're sharing thoughts, opinions, and experiences. These situations challenge you to think in English rather than mentally translate everything. They also expose you to different accents, speeds, and speaking styles, which deepens your listening ability and fuels your conversational instincts. With every interaction you navigate successfully, your confidence rises because you're proving to yourself that your voice carries value even in a second language. Gradual exposure is powerful because it removes the need to pressure yourself into huge leaps. You don't need to jump straight into complex debates or extended discussions. You simply need to expand your comfort zone inch by inch. Each new level of interaction feels slightly uncomfortable at first, but that discomfort is a sign of growth. Eventually, situations that once made you extremely nervous become easy, or even enjoyable. You realize you're no longer rehearsing sentences in your head, you're responding naturally, trusting your instincts, and allowing the conversation to flow. As your confidence stabilizes, begin initiating interactions rather than waiting for them. Ask questions even when you already know the answer, simply to practice speaking. Compliment someone, make a short comment, or start a light conversation. Initiating builds a deeper kind of confidence because it shifts you from being reactive to being proactive. Instead of feeling like English happens to you, you become the person guiding the moment. This shift rewires your relationship with the language, teaching you to control conversations instead of fearing them. To strengthen this progress, create situations where English becomes the default option. Join classes, attend events, participate in workshops, or volunteer in environments where English is the primary mode of communication. These settings offer natural conversations without the pressure of being judged. They also expose you to new types of interaction, problem solving, collaboration, teamwork, storytelling, and casual conversation. Every environment brings you closer to speaking confidently because you're constantly encouraged to express yourself clearly and authentically. Pay close attention to your emotional reactions during these interactions. Notice what triggers hesitation and what sparks confidence. Some people fear misunderstanding, others fear being judged. Some worry about grammar, while others fear blank mind moments. Understanding your specific fears helps you design interactions that strengthen your weak points while reinforcing your strengths. Confidence isn't only about speaking better, it's about managing the emotions that shape how you speak. When you learn to breathe through nervousness, slow down your sentences, and focus on clarity instead of perfection, your entire speaking experience becomes more controlled and enjoyable. Another important part of this journey is learning how to recover gracefully when mistakes happen. A slip, a freeze, or a mispronunciation doesn't undermine your skill. It makes you more human and more relatable. Confidence grows not from avoiding mistakes, but from handling them with calmness. Simply correct yourself, keep going, and celebrate the fact that the conversation continued. Every time you recover from a mistake, you train your mind to remain steady during real-life interactions. That steadiness becomes one of your greatest strengths. As your interactions become more frequent and more natural, you'll begin noticing major internal changes. You speak without overthinking, respond without hesitation, and participate without fear. You stop evaluating every word and start focusing on the flow of the exchange. English becomes a medium for connection rather than a barrier blocking it. Your confidence blooms because you're no longer trying to perform the language you're living in. The more you speak, the more your voice becomes an extension of who you are. You discover new ways to express humor, emotion, curiosity, and personality. You learn how to tell stories, how to clarify your thoughts, how to ask better questions, and how to engage deeply with others. These abilities come only from real interactions, and they shape the kind of confidence that lasts a lifetime. With steady practice, you reach a point where real-life interactions feel less like practice and more like your natural environment. Conversations become opportunities rather than challenges. Every voice you hear, every question you answer, and every comment you make is another layer of confidence built through consistent exposure. Your journey becomes a testament to your effort. You earned this confidence through patience, persistence, and courage, one interaction at a time. Number 10. Transform fluency using conversation simulation routines. A quiet breakthrough begins the moment you realize fluency doesn't come only from speaking with real people. It also grows from the conversations you rehearse, simulate, and internalize long before you ever open your mouth in front of someone else. Conversation simulation routines reshape the way you think and respond, allowing your mind to practice dialogue without the pressure of real-time judgment. These routines build fluency by strengthening your reflexes, sharpening your phrasing, and creating the mental patterns that make spontaneous speech feel effortless. They prepare you for real interactions by giving your brain a safe space to explore language freely and confidently. Start by creating simulated exchanges you can repeat daily. Choose everyday scenarios like greeting someone, asking a question, giving an opinion, or responding to an unexpected comment. Speak both sides of the dialogue, shifting your tone, rhythm, and phrasing each time. This forces your mind to think in English, anticipate possibilities, and respond naturally instead of translating thoughts from your native language. The more variety you bring into these routines, the more flexible your speaking becomes, because your brain learns to navigate many different conversational paths. As the simulations become more comfortable, introduce complexity. Add emotional tone, humor, uncertainty, or tension to the conversations you practice. Play with different moods: calm, curious, surprised, confident, hesitant, enthusiastic. Each emotional state demands a different style of expression, and practicing these in advance prepares you for the unpredictable nature of real conversation. Fluency expands when your mind can switch smoothly between tones without freezing or searching for words. To strengthen your speed and spontaneity, create routines where you force yourself to respond immediately to prompts. You can use random word generators, topic spinners, or audio clips to push your brain into fast-thinking mode. Speak your thoughts as soon as they appear, even if they're imperfect. This removes hesitation and teaches you to trust your instincts. Over time, you'll notice your sentences forming faster, your ideas flowing more freely, and your confidence rising because you no longer fear the moment when it's your turn to speak. Add realism to your practice by modeling different conversation partners. Imagine someone who speaks quickly, someone who pauses often, someone who uses slang, someone who sounds formal, someone who interrupts, someone who asks deep questions, and someone who talks casually. Respond to each style as though they were standing in front of you. Fluency improves dramatically when your mind becomes flexible enough to handle various speaking patterns without confusion. You can also simulate specific communication challenges, such as explaining a concept, giving directions, offering feedback, or expressing disagreement politely. These moments often intimidate learners in real life, but rehearsing them repeatedly builds familiarity. When you practice how to disagree calmly or clarify a misunderstanding, you remove the emotional pressure from these moments. You gain the clarity to articulate your thoughts with grace, precision, and focus. Another way to elevate these routines is to incorporate recording. Speak your simulated conversations into your phone, then listen back. This helps you spot habits you don't notice while speaking: rushed sentences, unclear pronunciation, filler words, or inconsistent tone. Once you hear these patterns, you can adjust them in the next round of simulation. Recording accelerates growth because it gives you direct feedback without requiring another person to evaluate you. Reading aloud also strengthens your simulation practice. Choose a paragraph, read it once, then close the book and summarize it in your own words as though you're explaining it to someone. This builds your ability to express ideas clearly and confidently without relying on scripted language. The more you do this, the more agile your mind becomes, enabling you to transform written information into spoken communication smoothly and naturally. Shadowing repeating speech immediately after hearing it is another powerful simulation tool. Use podcasts, interviews, or videos and try to match the speaker's pace, tone, and rhythm. This exercise trains your mouth and brain to work together more efficiently. Within weeks, your fluency deepens because you're absorbing the natural flow of English, not just the grammar rules. You start adopting authentic phrasing, intonation patterns, and conversational structures that native speakers use every day. You can extend your routines further by simulating longer conversations on specific topics. Choose a subject. Imagine a full back-and-forth dialogue and allow the conversation to expand naturally. Let questions lead to thoughts, and let thoughts lead to deeper explanations. The more you explore topics in detail, the easier it becomes to speak at length without running out of ideas. This skill is especially valuable for interviews, discussions, and social conversations where you need to sustain engagement. Once you feel steady, challenge yourself to switch topics instantly. Begin speaking about daily routines, then shift to travel, then shift to goals, then shift to a story from your childhood. This type of simulation builds mental flexibility, helping you adapt smoothly when a real conversation changes direction. Fluency is not only about speaking well, it's about staying comfortable, even when the conversation moves unpredictably. To create even richer simulations, describe what you see around you in real time. Narrate your actions, comment on small details, or explain your thoughts aloud. This trains your brain to generate English continuously, without needing a prompt. When you do this regularly, speaking becomes automatic because your mind gets used to constructing sentences on the spot. As you strengthen your routines, you'll begin noticing a shift in how you react during real conversations. You no longer panic when someone speaks quickly or asks a question you didn't expect. Your simulated practice has already trained your brain to handle pressure calmly. Words surface faster than before, sentences sound more polished, and your voice carries more certainty. The hesitation that used to hold you back softens because your mind recognizes the patterns of conversation and responds with confidence. Conversation simulations also help reduce emotional pressure. You've already practiced the scenarios many times privately, so meeting them in real life doesn't feel scary. Your mind treats the moment as something familiar, something you've rehearsed. This familiarity dissolves anxiety, leaving space for clarity and presence. Over time, these routines reshape your fluency completely. You start thinking in English without forcing yourself. You catch mistakes quickly and correct them effortlessly. You speak longer, clearer, and with more precision. You develop the ability to express subtle ideas, react smoothly, and articulate your thoughts with maturity and confidence. You realize that fluency was never about memorizing perfect lines. It was about training your mind to respond naturally in a variety of situations. Your voice becomes stronger, your instincts sharpen, your sentences feel alive, and every day, with every simulation, your fluency transforms into something steady, reliable, and deeply rooted. Conversation simulation routines give you the ability to practice endlessly, privately, and effectively, allowing you to grow faster than you ever imagined. They turn your mind into a fluent speaker long before you enter a real conversation. So when you do, your confidence carries you effortlessly forward.